welcome for this webinar. My name is Sabri, and we'll wait a few seconds, minutes to let people arrive on this session. Hello, Vincent. Okay, maybe we can already start presenting the objective of this webinar and maybe letting my co-speaker introducing themselves. So let me maybe start with the objective. So thank you to be all there for this webinar, AI You Can Trust, AI that delivers, in collaboration with our Collibra friends. The objective today is to discover why embedding quality insurance, efficiency, and compliance into your AI factory is critical and makes a lot of sense. Getting insight on the foundational step, tool, and process to implement a scalable AI governance, and you will see why scalability is important here. We will explore actually the practical approach actually and a step-by-step approach to address AI-specific risk. And finally, we will see how Collibra can help managing your AI asset, tracking compliance, and automate the workflow as soon as you have defined your AI governance practice. Looks really cool, actually. So this is the outline for today. I will start quickly an introduction of my co-speaker and the context, and we will go through where to start to establish AI governance, adapting data governance, and you will see that it's key, of course, to leverage the existing data governance and how we can start with the first step, the AI inventory, and we will finish by a live demo to show these things live. I think it's important to see things happening in the tool. Let's then start by the introduction. And first, let me introduce you, my co-speaker. Chris, you want to introduce yourself?
Sounds perfect, Sabri. Yeah, thank you so much for having me, to yourself and all of the Euranova team. And thank you everyone for joining as well. Nothing quite like a bit of data governance on a Friday afternoon. My name is Chris Unwin, and I'm the Partnerships and Alliances Engineer at Collibra. I look after the likes of Euranova, but also our technical partners like SAP, Databricks, GCP, etc. Do forgive any background noise. I'm here in wonderful, sunny Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, but wouldn't have missed this for the world.
Thank you, Chris. Carmen, go ahead.
Hello everyone, and thank you very much for joining this session. My name is Carmen Cercelescu. I'm a data strategy and AI governance partner with Euranova. I'm also a strong advocate of the AI marketplace and data governance, recognizing their pivotal role in driving innovation while maintaining trust and transparency. I'm here today with you to answer to your questions and also to share some insights in these important topics.
Thank you, Carmen. Mariam?
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Mariam. I'm a data governance and AI governance consultant with Euranova, and I've also been a responsible AI researcher, and I'm really interested in AI governance and advocating for responsible AI. And I'm excited to be here today to share what Euranova has been building over the past few years as one of the team members that have been working on this framework that will be presented today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mariam. And my host, your host today, Sabri. So I am the CTO at Euranova. I have the chance to lead the data and AI governance practice and the data architecture practice. I'm also consultant partner for strategic projects and for First Off, especially in data science, AI, and data governance as well. Cool. Let's start by the context around AI governance. I think the most important element to understand in AI is that it does not operate in vacuum, actually. And indeed, you have your technical layer, you have the data, the technology, the model, the algorithms itself, but you have all the aspect about the risk, actually, the ethics. You have heard the responsible AI way of working. you have the regulatory compliance, and you have finally this organizational layer. Are you aligned with the strategic alignments with the organization, how your user are going to be trained and educated, and how they will adopt new practice for better working using AI or developing AI. So that's really this multi-layer dimension. And I really love this slide coming from our Collibra colleague that showed the complexity when building an AI model. Chris, do you want to comment this slide?
Yeah, absolutely, can do. So I think the interesting thing about this is that it really is a chain reaction, and actually data and AI governance as a whole aims to solve some of the major challenges that people are having around managing these complex complex life cycles for use cases. You know, finding the right data, trusting that data is made even more complex when we now need to also think, you know, does it take too long to deliver this AI use case? Does it take too long to solve this problem? Does it offer us any business value? Are we legally allowed to do this thing and to use AI for this particular purpose? They say that they say that raising a child takes a village, and creating AI models, training AI models. I really think that that's kind of like our little technical children, and it really does take input from so many different stakeholders to actually realize any value from AI. And if we move on, you know, we've got the kind of bringing the together of all the different personas, whether they're the head of AI, whether they're a privacy manager, a data engineer, data scientist, for instance. They all have these questions. Questions go bouncing around. We try to make sure they have an answer on time, but they don't always. And so we need to make sure that we've got value always at the heart of this.
Yeah, and we'll come back on this collaborative aspect later on, and I think it's a key aspect of the tool as well. Yeah, and in terms of value, actually, it's not so simple indeed, because we need to maximize the value and while minimizing the risk. Uh, Correct, Chris?
Absolutely. And the interesting thing about this is that when we're focused on compounding layers of value, what we see is that it starts to be worth it, and then it just exponentially becomes more and more aligned with what we're trying to achieve as an organization. So, for instance, if we're trying to ensure regulatory compliance, you know, we've got a huge part to play in regulatory compliance. We need to guarantee that we're not in violation of the GDPR or the EU AI or Data Act, for instance. And that really helps us drives down risk. It doesn't mean we don't accept that we have risk in our organization, because we do. Absolutely, everyone has risk, but it's about recognizing that risk, documenting that risk, and mitigating any potential fines or penalties that might arise from them.
Yes.
Additionally, enhancing trust and reputation, protecting your brand reputation is so underappreciated, I think, as a use case nowadays. But people shop with their preferences, right? They go to the companies and the people around us who ultimately support you know, positive interactions, positive contribution. And when you're building and maintaining trust in AI by making sure your models are transparent, what you're actually getting is a much stronger customer and stakeholder base, and you're actually protecting the organization. This isn't just risk from a technical perspective, it's risk from an organizational perspective. So as we minimize that as well, again, it further compounds.
Yeah, there is this interesting story about that, about the brand's reputation. You know, there was this story about Air Canada where they deploy a chatbot helping a customer to book their flight, and there was this guy who tried to book a flight with this discount code, and he was asking to the chatbot whether he could apply this discount code after having booking the flight. The chatbot answered that yes, perfectly, you can perfectly apply the discount code after. It's even better. The guy booked the flight, and then afterwards he tried to apply the discount code, where he realized that the system told him that no, it's impossible. The policies clearly state that you need to apply discount code just before. He was highly frustrated. He introduced a complaint, and later he went on trial, and he won. And it's really a good example where your brand's reputation can be quite attacked because this news was spread it a lot about this defect and this issue with this chatbot. So that's something that should be indeed quite careful, and controlling this kind of AI model deployment could help protecting your brand indeed.
Absolutely. I think we know what we'd all prefer, and that is if a chatbot gave us a free flight code. That would be even better.
Sure. Sure.
Uh, one other thing, of course, that we want to ensure is that we're mitigating AI operational risks. I think one of the things that stands out for me is that when we're identifying and proactively managing those risks, as we mentioned them earlier, you can actually avoid unintended consequences. So by understanding your business processes, by documenting those business processes well and having a better understanding of their outcomes, it makes it easier for us to reduce potential disruption when we're, you know, implementing unreliable AI.
Yes, and here as well, there is this really interesting story about the Zillow. Zillow is a real estate company based in US. It's a bit the ImmoWeb like we have in Belgium, but in US, with the difference that they can buy real estate and property. So they developed this AI machine learning model that helped them estimate the right price of a real estate for optimizing the margin when they resell it. And one interesting thing is that they didn't put in place any method for controlling the AI model in production. As a result, during the COVID crisis, they didn't see at the beginning, they didn't see that the market was completely changing. And of course, if your data are completely changing comparing to the data you have used for training the model, of course, you could expect to have wrong results. And this is exactly what they had, actually. This, in data science, we call that data drift and concept drift. So this is exactly what they had, and they lost hundreds of millions of dollars actually because they buy property at the wrong price. So this is a perfect example where safeguards and technical measure can help you to guarantee that you have operational efficiency and you minimize operational risks.
I couldn't agree with that more. And I think Sabri, the language you use as well is very intentional and very purposeful, and I love it. I think it's what we're not trying to do by talking about all this governance and AI governance is, impress on people that what they need is lots of red tape and lots of controls that will stop people doing things, negative, negative, negative. We want people to innovate at speed, but you're going to need the right guardrails. And I think you're going to get onto that a little bit later.
Exactly.
Uh,
Yes.
so the next thing, of course, is naturally maximizing ROI. If an AI is implemented well with high quality, well curated, compliant data, and we're focused on business critical outcomes, and we know exactly what we're trying to achieve, the way we're trying to achieve it, why we're trying to achieve it, and how we're going to get there. We've effectively just created a bunch of steps, a pathway to scale that ROI out, because otherwise we start to proliferate, models start to proliferate, use cases start to proliferate, and actually it's going to get more costly. So in this particular case, we want to achieve predictable ROI. We want to make sure that we're optimizing our investments and focusing on performance as well. And then finally, just reducing cost. I think it's kind of one of those obvious things that you do when in business. It's like maximize revenue, decrease costs. Kind of obvious, but realistically, what it comes down to is when you minimize operational overhead that's associated with AI, you can actually save a lot of money and actually focus on the efficiency of the use case, the efficiency of the implementation, and making sure, like I said, that the model scales, but also that the value scales with it. And by maintaining those margins, what we end up with is actually a really positive feedback from the use cases that we have AI implemented for.
Yes, indeed. And I think that this issue of scaling makes a lot of sense, actually. So I really like this slide coming again from our Collibra folks. If you look here, the number of use cases in the y-axis here and the time here in the axis, you said today we are in that green area. Actually, we don't have a lot of AI use case in production, and that's still okay to manage that in an ad hoc manner. What does it mean? It means that, well, you will find by yourself how you are going to evaluate your model, how you're going to document it, and it's done really, let's say, in an ad hoc manner. We are at the edge where tomorrow we are going to have more and more use cases arriving, and this is where this ad hoc manner become an overhead actually, and you will have a lot of things to do without organization. You see the first slide that we show with this chain reaction of interaction between people. Well, as soon as you scale of number of use cases, this chain of reaction just explodes, and then you are going to increase the risk of your model. You could miss some opportunity, and then you will see inefficiency into these collaborative exchanges, and the cost will increase a lot. So the question is, how can we scale this AI adoption? How can we have a real AI factory where we can scale without any costs? And that's really the purpose of the AI governance. So at Euranova, we have three focus area in that space. The first one is AI quality insurance. So for us, it's highly important that whatever the number of data team or data science team you have, they all have the same way of working to guarantee that the quality is there. It's a bit like, the software industry 50 years ago, where everyone were developing or starting developing software. We saw the rise of this software methodology to ensure that people are designing, implementing, and testing the software in with good practice. And AI governance actually is exactly that. Actually, how can we ensure to have the equivalent of a CI/CD but integrated into your AI factory? The second focus area for us is AI inventory management, to be sure that we can catalog, assess, and monitor all the AI use case. And by the way, this is the only obligation that we have for this month, by the way, for implementing the AI Act here in Europe, is to have this AI inventory with just listing the different model that you have with a high-level classification of the risk of this model. And the last element is AI regulation. But the good news is that if you have deployed the AI quality insurance and if you have your AI inventory, the cherry on the cake is that AI and regulation comes almost for free with a few things that you need to add. But basically, it's how we can ensure compliance having this framework in place. And this is how we approach this. One interesting thing here to see is that if you consider AI quality insurance and AI regulation, they are rooted in the same concepts. Yeah, yes. Yeah, they are rooted in the same concept actually. So if you look at AI quality and AI regulation, basically they implement responsible AI concept. So responsible AI is not something new actually. Responsible AI is something that has been developed for the last 10 years, and basically responsible AI gives you all the main concept and sub-concept to be sure that you implement AI with the right quality level. And it encompasses concepts like transparency, data governance, responsibility, robustness. And through these different concepts, you are pretty sure that the compliance is there and the quality is there. That's a fantastic source for us of how to evaluate the quality insurance. And that was actually the root of the AI Act regulation in Europe. So by understanding those concepts, it helped us a lot to understand how we can provide the best framework for ensuring quality and compliance. So now the question is where to start with AI governance. So interestingly, the AI inventory management is the first step. Why? Because it's a prerequisite for the AI quality. You need to know exactly which kind of AI model and use case that you have for starting to deploy quality insurance on top of. And AI regulation, actually, it's an obligation to have this AI inventory in place before anything else. So the first element to develop is the AI inventory management. The good news is that Collibra provides exactly that. they have this AI governance module on top that is precisely an AI inventory management system. We will come back to that. Yes. So enforcing AI. So how we propose to deploy our AI governance framework? Well, the first thing we propose to do is building your AI inventory. So it's basically getting started with Collibra AI governance. We establish the processes. We start the cataloging the AI use case. We extend the governance bodies, the role, responsibilities, and the different process are modeled as workflow in Collibra directly. So basically, it's mapping the AI governance practice we developed into the AI inventory for having the workflow role responsibility and workflow approval defined. Good. Once we have that, we can start enforcing AI quality and compliance. Basically, we define when to measure and how we can score the AI risk on each model. That's a way actually to streamline the development process with predefined check-in requirements. So it's basically when to measure and what to measure. Then we can implement those technical control as soon as we know precisely when to measure, what to measure. Here we define how to measure. And that could be by using open source library, by using proprietary code, or by using code that we develop for you if it is really innovative and there is nothing on the market for covering that. But basically here, we implement these different metrics all along the life cycle of the model. By doing that, we ensure that we collect evidence all along the life cycle of the AI model by using metrics, reports, and template of a report for guaranteeing that when you arrive to a decision gate for deploying production, we have the right element to decide factually on measure why you should go in production. And finally, we extend Collibra out-of-the-box feature with the customized template and workflow. So all the workflow I just described there about the decision gates and for promoting one AI model from one step to another, everything is modeled. The lifecycle and the different workflow are customized on top of Collibra AI governance. This is what we propose. And at the end of the day, with that, you have what we call this evidence-based approach, where you are not only governing AI, you are not only providing decision gate for making evolving from ideation to deployment your AI model, you also collect all the evidence that guarantee that the quality is there for your AI model. And then having all the safeguards for what we described at the beginning, the protecting your brands, being sure that we minimize the operational risk and that we save costs. And actually, putting AI governance in place is actually it's necessary to leverage first data governance, and there is a tight link between data governance and AI governance. Just a small story, interesting story here. Now Gartner doesn't quote actually AI and data governance separately. It's becoming AI and data governance. Chris, that's I think here it's a fundamental part of the value proposition from Collibra to leverage data governance into AI governance. We want to comment that.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more, and I can see exactly where they've gotten this from. And we're also seeing the rise of not only the CDO, right, but the CDAO, the CDAIO, the job roles and personas who are part of this transformation also fit in. And one of the big things we're hearing from our customers today as well is that we are seeing a transformation where we can bring data governance in because of AI. The two things are one and the same. And out of the box, Collibra has already provided everything we needed to do data governance from the beginning. It's just Groundhog Day, really. We've needed to do data governance for so long.
Yeah, and one good thing is that as soon as you have data governance, that means that you should have, well, governance bodies and asset of governance that you could extend. Miriam, do you want to jump in here to explain why and how extending data governance is interesting here?
Yes, thank you. So definitely, just to explain what we mean exactly by extending data governance or by building on data governance, um, it's interesting to see most companies working with data today already have the right foundation. They have their governance roles and responsibilities in place. They have policies, processes defined, even compliance processes for the purpose of data governance. And what we're proposing and what Euranova recommends, and it's not just Euranova at this point. We've heard from Chris from Collibra, and most companies are moving into that direction today. Is that everything that's already in place can be used as foundation? We do not need to reinvent the wheel. We do not need to start from scratch, but instead leverage everything you already have. Introduce, for example, if we're speaking of governance, introduce new roles to support your data governance processes and help your people get accustomed to the new requirements that will come into light for AI governance without having to go through significant change management. And that's what having the right data governance foundation can help you do.
Perfect. Yeah, so in terms of organization, I suppose that this is also where you can extend the organization.
Yes, definitely. So this is just an example of, so we're speaking of extending the operating model. So let's take the example of the governance organization. And what most companies do, and what we've been recommending is you need to establish 3 decision bodies to support your data governance, and those are usually operating on the operational level, that's your data office, on the tactical level, that's your council, and on the strategic level, that's the steering board. So what we propose is to introduce committees, AI-oriented committees within those data governance decision bodies, and introduce the right roles to perform your day-to-day operations that are required for for AI governance. So those are the AI developer, the role of AI officer, and of course, moving to a more tactical level, you need to assign ownership. So that's why you need to establish the role of the AI owner and the chief AI officer that will bridge between the Data Governance Council and the Data Governance Office and the AI committees within those bodies to validate AI governance decisions and to guide the day-to-day operations. And we also propose the introduction of the role of the coordinator, and that's kind of a in-between role that will help guide your AI teams, your AI center of excellence to fulfill the direction of the strategy set by the steering board. So this is just an example, but Euranova also extends the entire operating model in order to accustom for AI governance requirements and needs.
Excellent. So we can keep in mind that actually the AI governance organization is just an extension of your existing data governance bodies and not a brand new one.
Yep.
Good. Thank you. Okay, so we said that the first step should be this AI inventory management. So let's look at the out-of-the-box feature provided by Collibra in AI governance. Chris, do you want to jump in here to introduce the AI inventory management?
Yes, absolutely can do. So thank you, Sabri, and thank you, Mariam. Now, the interesting thing is that Calibra started to do this internally ourselves. You know, we were already keeping track of our processes and our justification, and we started to use AI, and you know, we started building up this idea of, well, what is an AI use case, and are we compliant in our use of data, and we started putting some very clever things together in our own internal data office, and some very clever person turned around and said, this is really good. We should sell this, turn it into a product. And the funny thing is, because naturally we already have all of the context, the business, the governance, the usage context, the compliance usage around our data in Calibra, we're already doing kind of data governance, or we can start doing data governance. Naturally, the next step is to evolve that and understand the AI use cases that we're working on as well. So In this case, Collibra's AI governance module is relatively new, but a lot of the practices are already baked into Collibra fundamentally. So in this particular case, we gather the AI use cases from any job role collaboratively working on AI internally. Those use cases we attach business and governance context to so that we understand what business value it has and helps us prioritize those use cases. We're able to attach assessments, and I know, Miriam, you're going to talk about this more at length, but the point is we can assess at every stage the suitability of the data, the suitability of the AI, the suitability of our compliance with regulation, and bringing all this together creates truly explainable AI, the combination of business and technical layer. And if we, you can see the logos at the bottom there. If we skip to the next slide, we can see that Collibra's integration isn't just skin deep. We're not just thinking about just the use case in isolation. It's all of the context that the business needs and all of the technical context with integrations across Databricks Unity Catalog, Vertex AI, Azure ML, SageMaker, Bedrock, and of course SAP AI Core and Gen AI Hub. And we can pull these models in and attach them to those use cases, get that context. And that helps us also understand in a longer term, what models are being used for which use cases, for why, for which, with which justification, and obviously for us to then move these out into obsolescence or replacing them or training them still further as we go. And the example of where we're trying to get to is here. This is a perfect example. And I love business lineage in Collibra. It's my favorite view. But right there, you see a center of gravity, an AI use case with all of the green on the left and right, the controls, the risk, how we're mitigating risk, how we're maintaining compliance with the GDPR or the EU AI or Data Act, which data we're adding. The little green indicators on the yellow there is the quality of the data we're putting in, because naturally, as every single person on every single webinar says now, and I'm going to be no different, garbage in, garbage out. We want good, high quality, well curated data that feeds ultimately into our models, drives those use cases. And when we sit down with stakeholders and they say, well, how are you arriving at that number? What are you using? How are you using it? How are you mitigating the risks? I can point them at this simple, easy to understand diagram. They just know, they can see.
Yeah, that's great. Very great. Cool. And then so we are going to have at the end of the webinar a short demo for guiding you to the tool. But basically, the central place here is the use case asset page where you can start having the description of different use case. And what I think is really cool with AI governance on Collibra is that if you remember the first slide with this AI chain of reaction, where a lot of different persona were collaborated together. And this is exactly where the tool makes sense. It's a tool where everyone will be able to collaborate together all along the life cycle of the AI model. And the life cycle by default is ideation, development, monitoring, and then monitoring because you deploy in production, and you can have archive or reject it. And then you can have this specific workflow for moving from one state to another. And this is exactly what we are extending. We are extending the number here of states. It's not only ideation, development, monitoring. We are adding a few states, and we are customizing decision gates. How did we do that? So first of all, we use a standard way to represent the AI lifecycle. So, the CRISP DM model defined that for the lifecycle of a typical AI model, you have this business understanding, data prep, modeling, validation, deployment. So it's a kind of standard way of working in AI. So what we have done actually is, remember, I was talking about this responsible AI principle, like compliance, transparency, explainability, bias detection. So we took all these responsible AI principle and we try to define where do they have to be evaluated and how can we measure them during the life cycle of the AI model. Just to give you an example, bias detection. So bias detection is something that could be used during data prep because you can look at your data and defining whether there is a bias there. during the modeling of your AI model, because you can then defining during the modeling how you can be biased or prove to biased. And then on validation, you can validate that indeed you have no bias into your model. So what we have done there is defining exactly where this matrix should be applied and how to implement this matrix, what kind of measure should be put there. And we provide a template of a report. And if you mix that to the role and responsibilities, defining who is accountable for implementing this matrix, who is accountable for evaluating this matrix during these gates, it's exactly where the practice we define, the AI governance organization role, responsibility, processes, and AI governance from Collibra comes together and makes a wonderful product there. So just a glimpse into the process of how we did that. So basically, as I told you, first of all, the most important things is defining the governance bodies, defining the role and responsibilities, and the working matrix. This is something we start from the working matrix we have defined in our practice, and we can just customize for your needs or for your organization these different roles, responsibilities, and governance bodies. Then we define together, we comes with the full list of the
Sabri, I think we lost you. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, there's an issue with the sound.
Sabri, I don't know if you're able to hear us. We can all hear each other. It might be a good opportunity to tackle one of the questions just whilst Sabri's getting the sound sorted. Mariam and Carmen, as governance experts, I'll pose the question to you and see what you think. But and thank you, Jasmine, for the question. So it was the question was, you could argue all AI is coming to almost all of our solutions. Do you see AI governance more generally as our governance, taking AI risks and controls into place when needed, or do you see it as specific governance?
This is a good question. So AI governance, is how can I say, general and at the same time specific. It's general because we propose a standard approach to govern the different use cases and the different models, and it is specific at the same time as we address the risk in the different ways. So the high risk, we are going to go much more further in our investigation and in the governance in comparison with how we address, for example, a use case with a low risk. So yeah, this is how we see today. But at this stage, and I believe today we are starting the journey, the AI governance journey. There is a common framework, understanding, and specific governance to be put in place. And you see that today we have also a tooling accelerating, in fact, this adoption, because it is also about adoption. It is something like, the software development. So decades again, it was also in an early stage. Today, we have really a complete practice and a standardized way of addressing with AI governance and AI in general. We are going also in this direction.
Yes, thank you, Carmen. And if I can complement that by just saying, I do believe personally that it is a specific type of governance because, as is shown in the rest of this slide at the right there, you can see that especially what we've done at Euranova for our AI governance practice is we really focus on the quantitative risk measurement coming from AI risks and it goes without saying that AI risks are really specific. That they're specific to the use case, they're specific to the algorithms you're using. So without that kind of quantitative approach to risk measurement, it really goes a long way into defining your strategy, into defining your entire end-to-end risk management approach. So yes and no. Yeah, it starts with typical risk management from your current capabilities for data governance, but it also needs a specific customized approach.
Amazing. Thank you both. Good insights. I think Sabri might be trying to reconnect. Just whilst he does, I'll give my my 2 cents on it as well. I definitely think there's an element to it that's a bit kind of Scooby-Doo-esque, where we take off the hood and it's data governance, you again. But absolutely, we need some specific language that enables us to evolve the actual governance that we need. I think we have Sabri back. Welcome back.
Yeah, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Wow, wonderful. Okay, cool. So, and perfect, because I heard everything you said, and I agree. So that's a good thing first, and thank you for being so reactive. Yeah, and coming back to the thing here, so it's a good point. Coming back to the last question, actually. So I think that not all the use cases require to have the full-fledged of matrix, actually, and this is part of the things we need to discuss together. What kind of model require to have the full-fledged evaluation, because they are so critical for the business that we need to ensure that they behave correctly. And some other AI use cases are just, a few things not really important, useful, but not really important. And there we just expect to have the minimal quality review and then the minimal matrix applied. But at the end of the day, this is the things that we need to customize for your own need within your own organization. Cool. So just to give you an hint about the kind of evidence we are collecting here, it's some snapshot from the templates report we propose for the different steps. I will not deep dive on them for the sake of time, but just here we can have just a view, a mental view of what kind of report we can provide and what kind of evidence we can collect all along the life cycle of the model. Before going to the demo, I would like to finish with one interesting thing. Well, we have all these metrics. Let's imagine that you have your AI governance in place, you have your role, responsibility, governance bodies, and practice implemented, and you have your metrics, the measure that you have put all along the life cycle of your AI model. Now, actually, because you have all those metrics, why not using these metrics for evaluating the risk? Now you have factual measure of the quality of your AI model. Why not measuring the risk? And this is a question that we raised with the Vlerick Business School, a business school here in Belgium, and they help us to develop a risk scoring model. And one of the first things that they came up with is that it's not just a question of measuring things, it's a question of evaluating trade-off. And that's a really interesting thing, actually. So let me take an example. So if you take anonymization, for instance, you will anonymize the data because it's a legal requirement if you don't have the legal ground to process the data, but you will hurt the utility, the fidelity of the data comparing to the original data sets. So anonymizing a lot means a low utility. Anonymizing a bit less means a better utility. So you have a trade-off between privacy and utility. And actually, what we did during this exercise with the business with this business school is evaluating all the trade-off you can have and how we can infer the risk of your model considering all these trade-off. And we end up with a risk-based approach where you can draw the likelihood of a risk to happen with severity, and you end up at the end of the day with this spider graph where you can better understand the different trade-off and qualifying the risk. So this is something that you could do as soon as you have put in place all these different metrics during the life cycle of your AI model. I just wanted to finish with this because I think it's really useful to leverage not only the matrix you put in place for AI quality, but also for scoring the risk of your AI model in production. I spoke a lot. I will leave the floor to Miriam, and she will have a short demo of the AI governance tool.
Yes, thank you, Sabri. Just a second, I'll be sharing my. And yeah, so second part of this presentation, through this short demo, we're trying, or the message that I would like you to really take away from this is, because we've heard throughout this webinar, we've heard a lot of keywords. One of them was quality, one of them was compliance, and we've also spoken a lot about customizability, because we do offer an approach, we offer a process, we offer a set of metrics and reports, but we're also advocating for having an inventory. So how does that and all that, how does it fall into place and how does it go together? So for the demo, there'll be two parts. For the first few minutes, I'll be taking you over AI governance out of the box in Collibra, and then we'll go over into the customizability of it all. So for the first part, when you go to Collibra and you log into your AI governance module that comes with Collibra out of the box. This is the AI governance landing page that you will see here. You can register any AI use case you're developing, or you can search by use case, but you can also see your already registered use cases and in which phase each of them is. So the phases or the core path for AI use cases defined by Collibra is ideation, development, and monitoring. It goes without saying, of course, that there's a lot that goes on there. There's a lot of checks to perform there, but this is the core path that will guide your AI registry. So this is, as we said, this is the landing page, but you can also go over your AI legal reviews. So if there is any legal assessments that you've performed recently, you can find a summary of them here alongside the overall risk scoring or risk rating of each use case. So your use cases will be categorized by risk category.
Yeah, Miriam.
Next, yes.
Sorry, I had to jump in, but this is exactly what we need then to have this AI use case registry with the risk classification is precisely what you need from a legal viewpoint in February, actually this year, from the AI Act.
Yes, yes, exactly. And this is why having this sort of registry, having your AI inventory in place is especially critical during this time period, because without real documentation, without this place where you have your source of truth for all your AI models, it will be difficult to keep track of which use cases are high risk, which are lower risk, how can I do those assessments, who does them, how can I document them. So Collibra is here to answer all of these questions. And if you navigate your AI use cases here, this is an example. You would be able to see all of your registered AI use cases categorized by status, as we said. You can provide a description for each one, who's the owner of each one, and how, or more like what data sets, what business assets that are already registered in Collibra, what data assets does this use case use? And the reason we need this is because Collibra is meant to be used as the catalog that should be accessed by all stakeholders. So your business people, your legal team, everyone can collaborate on one on one registry or one inventory, and the distribution of responsibilities, the distribution of validation or requests to be filled in, everything can be done through Collibra. And the final feature offered by the AI governance module is this page, which is the AI model registry. So yes, you have your AI use cases inventory, but apart from the use cases, you can independently have a log of all your AI models. Again, you can track status, which ones are still haven't been approved, which one are accepted and are linked already to any existing AI use cases.
Yeah, Miriam, why do we need to have an AI model inventory and a use case registry? Sorry, the opposite, the model registry and the use case inventory. Why do we need to have both of them?
Yeah, so it's critical to have both because, first of all, when you're using Collibra AI governance, an AI use case and an AI model are two different asset types, and those two asset types have relations that you can keep Collibra through the lineage. But of course, one AI use case can use multiple AI models, and one model can be used to train multiple AI use cases, and that's sort of the reason why we have both. And we also have, because you have access to an AI governance module in a data governance catalog, of course, you can link everything to your data catalog, all your data sets used to train your models and everything.
Mm.
So the next, yes.
Oh,
Oh,
go ahead.
I thought I heard someone speaking. Yes. So the next thing I wanted to take you through here is an example of the AI use case asset page that comes out of the box. So just by having access to Collibra AI governance, this is what your AI use case page looks like. As soon as you register your use case, you will be invited to fill in a description of your use case, and that's something, a working record that you can keep updating once you have more information and once more and more stakeholders start to collaborate on the same use case. So again, as you can see here in the responsibilities tab, you can assign every single role you need assigned to keep your AI use case up to date with all the information that needs to be filled in here. And then, as we mentioned in the slides, as I mentioned in the beginning of the demo, your AI use case takes as statuses these three statuses in what is called as the core path. The core path here is ideation, development, and monitoring. So any activities, any decisions you make along the life cycle of an AI model or an AI use case, as you start to progress through the checks you need to do, everything can be kept as and recorded here in Collibra. So how we usually do it is we assign assessment assets to your AI use case assets. So automatically, once you register an AI use case, different assessments will be requested of the AI use case owner to fill in or to assign. And once those those governance assessments are filled in, little by little, you'll be seeing the evolution of your AI use case asset page. So if we start here, once the use case is registered, we start with the business context assessment. And once you fill in and validate your business context assessment, this page will be filled in. And then as you go, as you finish all the assessments, this page will be filled in the more you progress along the life cycle.
Miriam, we're not limited on what we can do with those assessments, though, right? It's not limited to AI, or we can't not modify them for our own purposes. Hey.
Yes, exactly. So maybe when I first showed the progress tracker there, when I mentioned the core path, you might be wondering why we only have three stages in the life cycle, when we've already mentioned that for us, for the process that we've developed in the Euranova practice for AI governance, we follow the life cycle step by step. So that's how actually we integrated our AI governance checks, our AI governance framework into Collibra using the Collibra assessment templates. So out of the box, these are the assessment templates that come with Collibra. Some of them are for AI, some of them are for your data catalog, but for AI governance, Collibra defines the business context assessment. They provide the EU AI Act assessment, which helps you figure out the risk class of your AI use case based on the requirements defined by the AI Act. And they also provide the data and AI models, the legal and ethics, and the risks and safeguards assessment. These are the assessments that are specific to AI governance out of the box in Collibra. So what we did here is use those assessment assets to integrate our checks into Collibra and have it be documentable to promote for the evidence-based approach. So we start with business understanding. These are the phases that we've discussed that go along the life cycle from business understanding, data prep, modeling, validation, and monitoring. And I will show you an example of a use case with all those assessments filled in. So using the customized environment for Collibra AI governance that Euranova can help you customize, once you register your AI use case, you will automatically be asked to fill in the EU AI Act assessment to figure out your risk class. That's step one. You will then be asked to fill in the business understanding and the data understanding assessment. Once you figure out your business need, your business objective, what's the problem you're trying to solve, and how you can solve it by defining the right technology needs or the data needs that you need, then you can move your use case to development. So you will be using the progress tracker that comes out of the box, yes, but within that progress tracker, you'll see everything that needs to be done. And it's not just through assessments. So here, for example, if we say to move from ideation to development, you need the validation by the data council or the data office, depending on the decision power that you've given to your established data governance decision bodies. So here you can record decision gates or decision records by adding activity here. So either by clicking that button, you can either start an assessment or start a decision record. And those decision records cannot be deleted. They cannot be revoked. But you can, for example, if you're in ideation, move to development, you figure out that there's some assessments that haven't been complete, you can go back to ideation and everything is recorded in Collibra and everyone involved in the process can keep track of it, keep track of all the changes that have been made using Collibra. So here, once we're done with understanding, we have our data. We've linked it from the data catalog. We can move to development using by filling in these four assessments. And I'll take you through the different assessments very quickly just for you to have an idea. And again, once you fill in these assessments, your AI use case asset page, your source of truth will be populated as long as you go throughout the process. So here, for the first step, you need to define your business objectives. So everything is documented here, following the reports that we've developed under the CRISP DM's life cycle checks. The risk classification for the AI use case is also done through this assessment. Again, here we're using the Collibra out-of-the-box assessment because it's completely accurate and it reflects the right status for the risk class. Data understanding. The cool thing you can do here, as I said, is you can link your data assets directly from the data catalog. If the data doesn't exist in your already populated catalog, you can describe it or add it later. But if it does exist, then you can just add and link your data sets just by defining how and when they will be used. So once we're done with all that, we've recorded our data that will be used. We move to data prep. Here we keep a record of the data quality. So the data quality dimensions that will be assessed, the values of those tests, and those tests, of course, because you can't do everything in Collibra, but once you've validated your checks for data quality, you're invited to have the documentation in Collibra, and the same applies for security, and everything is then validated in the validation assessment template. So going from accuracy, explainability, fairness, and risk scoring. So once everything's filled in, we move to our monitoring plan because the use case can't be moved to monitoring or to deployment without the monitoring plan approved. So the monitoring plan will define the acceptable target difference between the metrics that you've already measured and the thresholds that those metrics should stay within. So this is the planning for all the metrics that already have been documented, all the tests that have already been done, and how you can expect changes in those metrics as your model goes into deployment. So yes, that's everything I wanted to show you directly in Collibra, and please let me know if you have any questions.
Good. Thank you, Miriam. So I propose to let the audience ask question into the chat. And in the meantime, I can already ask question to you, Carmen. So please, audience, please don't hesitate if you have any question to put them into the chat there, and we will carefully answer them. Just Carmen, in the meantime, for waiting for the first question. So for you, what are the key challenges clients face in the AI governance journey? Can you a bit describe that?
Yes, sure. So there are a number of challenges when starting this journey. Let's be honest, it is about a journey. And one of the common challenge companies face is aligning the cross-functional teams. Reason being that AI governance involves collaboration between data scientists, data engineering, IT, business leaders, risk managers. So it spans across a number of teams. So here what is important is really to establish clear roles and responsibilities, to not only foster accountability, but also enable more efficient collaboration and decision-making between the teams. We also recommend training, coaching, guidance here are very important to make sure that everybody understands their roles and also their responsibilities. Another frequent issue is the difficulty to translate high-level governance principles into practical processes. And here our recommendation would be to adopt the evidence-based approach, meaning at each step in the AI development lifecycle, provide the appropriate tools, the concrete metrics to operate responsible AI practice. And finally, some companies also struggle to maintain governance over the time. So here what is important is to set up a continuous monitoring system to ensure the long-term effectiveness.
Good. Thank you, Carmen. So don't be shy in the audience. Don't hesitate to put your question in the chat. And I have a second one for you, Carmen, just to allow the time for the audience. So how do you guide organization in fostering the right mindset for responsible AI? Because I suppose it's not so easy.
No, not at all. Because everything is touching a bit the company culture. And this company culture indeed plays a huge role in adopting the responsible AI mindset in the organization, as this culture will ensure that ethical AI practice are truly embedded across the different teams. So here what we recommend is really creating this mindset of transparency, accountability, and also collaboration between the teams. So also what is important is to train teams so that responsible AI becomes part of their daily job. And this all because when culture is aligned, these practices naturally stick and become more sustainable. And this really helps to succeed the AI projects on the long run, and also to build more trust with the stakeholders.
Makes sense. Good. Thank you. I see no question from the audience. Nice. Oh, there is just in time, Jerome. Let's look at your question before closing then. As a data governance team data governance is usually centralized in a business unit. Integrated data governance central team in the development lifecycle of AI model can be a challenge. How can we be sure that data governance is not bypassed? Well, would you want to handle this one? I can provide the first one if you want. So for me, it's clearly a question of the setup you deploy at the beginning. Actually, it's central, and that's why it's not only governance. So for me, it's everything should be consistent into an organization. If you set up a data governance team which is completely independent of your data platform or you data itself, it's complicated to centralize all the access. For me, data governance is the operating model of your data platforms. And that would be S at platforms. So you can have many different platforms, but how you're going to operate them, the operational model is your data governance. And I think for AI, it's the same. You should have your AI factory, a kind of company choice of which kind of technical tool framework you're going to use. And on top of that, you should have your AI governance, which is the operating model of how you should use that platform correctly. And that should have, of course, a kind of enterprise-wide footprint. Otherwise, indeed, you could do your own machine learning model in your own, and that's not good. And that's part of the change management that Carmen mentioned. It's a change management. You need to be trained on the fact that doing your own machine learning model, deploying that by yourself is not correct. It's not something authorized by the company policy. And then this AI governance, data governance, and technological tooling on top should be deployed together, actually, or at least in strong collaboration. Chris, do you have any view on that, or do you want to complete?
I think I'll just add something very, very quick, and that is just that if you're a firm believer like I am in non-invasive data governance, you'll be a firm believer that everyone is doing data governance in some way, shape, or form. It's just not necessarily been documented or formalized. So one thing that I think is always important is to acknowledge that if you're going to centralize a data governance function, you'll need champions in the other areas of the business who can sit on your council, who can represent as an SME in those different areas back to the centralized function. You need to find the best, most collaborative way of working, or adopt a decentralized or federated model if you're worried that data governance is going to be left behind.
Yep, agree. Good, we are reaching the end of this webinar. Thank you to all for your participation. If you need any additional information, don't hesitate to come back to me, either by email, is my first name, last name at euranova.eu, or just info@euranova.eu, or you can reach me by LinkedIn as well. Or feel free to contact any one of us if you have any additional question. Have a great weekend, and thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Euranova team.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending, and bye.
Bye-bye.